Hey lovely friends and family, I'm in the kitchen today cooking up a souffle. So I thought you might like to see this one. This is quite a favourite of mine and I haven't done it for a few weeks, so I thought I'll video this and give you a bit of an idea how to use those extra eggs. The recipe is called Souffle Omelette with hot smoked salmon. Now you can take or leave the salmon if you want to. You can of course substitute. Your meat, you can leave it out altogether. So I've selected this one as to cook today. So it's a pretty straightforward one using a varoma and steaming your souffle above. I hope you'll be able to get to see all that with my camera setup. So let's start. It's just a matter of making up a mayonnaise, making up the omelette, and then popping some topping on top as the omelette suggests, but the souffle means it's just going a little bit more fluffier than your general kind of omelette or quiche, so to speak. So let's start with weighing out our mayonnaise ingredients. So I've got this great little jug that you can get from the mix shop. It's a handy little tool, and we're going to measure in some oil. Now this says grapeseed oil. I don't use grapeseed oil. I sometimes use light olive oil, but I haven't got any of that today. And then you can go into the dearer oils, of course, that are more healthy than a vegetable oil. But I'm out of MCT as well and a few other things. So I'm going to use a combination, a little bit of olive oil. It will be a stronger brew. And this is a 250 ml measurement. So I might put around about the 100 mils of olive oil. Just has that little bit more of a bitterness to it, but it is no doubt the healthiest oil to choose. And what I'm going to show you is using a little bit of my salad dressing. Now that's close enough. My Bragg salad dressing, which is predominantly oil, and it's got a bit of flavouring. It's the ginger and sesame. I love this one. And I'm going to take that to the 250. So look, what we're adding is a little bit of flavour to this as a, it's got apple cider vinegar and your ginger and of course sesame. So it's going to go into the thicker sediment here. So I'll stop there and then I'll just top back up with some more oil, which I'm going to choose a little bit of hemp. So this is where your mayonnaise can really be upgraded. You can get some goodies in here. Omega-3s and of course anti-inflammatory oils that are going to help not hinder your arthritis. That's right. A lot of people are eating their kryptonite. They don't realise a lot of these trans fats and cheap oils are not doing them any good. So I love to use my hemp oil, not predominantly, but as a part of the flavour. So set that jug aside. So it's just got our cup of oil. We've measured that out. Okay, so now we're going to start the mayo, which if you've made mayonnaise before in the Thermomix, you know you require the butterfly. That's the one attachment that will do our whipping for us. Now it says 2 egg yolks. I only ever use 1 egg. I don't want to waste those whites, or if you've got a purpose for them, then that's fine. You might want to make yourself up a little meringue. But generally I'll just use those two, that whole egg mayo. 2 tablespoons of cider vinegar, teaspoons. I'm not going to use that because there's a little bit of that in my oil already coming up. And the rice wine vinegar, I'm not going to worry about that. This is just about whipping up the egg. It's not really going to be where it emulsifies. All right, wasabi paste. Well, I've got flavour in my salad dressing, so I'm not going to worry about that. It's pretty much just blending that up. Speed 4. All right, so now it tells me to gradually pour the reserved oil into the mixing bowl lid and let it trickle into the mixing bowl to emulsify. So So that means you can usually put on your measuring cup and it will trickle down. I'm just going to save that getting oily. There's no reason to worry about. I hope you can see me pouring this. Just, I have to move it back. You can trust me. Gradually pouring that in. I'm just letting it hit the top of the lid and trickle down. You hear the change as it's going in. Just gradually. You hear it start to thicken. Perfect. May just like to flick in the final teaspoon or two on top. And ta-da, there we have our mayonnaise. See that? So it is a little bit different colour what we're used to, with that hemp oil being slightly green. And don't waste your beaters, have a little bit of a lick there. Beautiful. So we've removed our whisk and we're transferring our mayo into a container. All right, so here's my jug. Again, there's my mayonnaise. Pop that into my little jug, which I love using for sauces and gravies. Handy little fellow. And of course it's stainless. Gotta love stainless, it's robust. No nasty chemicals. Hey, someone else likes the smell of that. All right, so there's your good cup or so of mayo, all for the cost of your oil. And that's just one place where you can really upgrade your health on, is making your own condiments. I think it's so important because these days you're getting the wrong oil, the wrong salt. You know, you've got all the additives that you don't want. Okay. All right, clean and dry mixing bowl, because we're going to do some chopping of some veggies. Okay, so that's where it's great to have a second Thermomix or a second bowl. And give that a bit of a rinse and not worry about having to wait for that. So I'm going to use, instead of kale, because I haven't got kale at the moment, I'm going to use some baby spinach. It's just 30 grams. 30 grams. So of greens, you can do a bit of a mixture. Use plain spinach. We want some flat leaf parsley. Okay, parsley is a superstar. You want to get as much of that in your diet as you can. You want to grow it where you can. We want red onion. Now, red onion is, of course, the best, but I'm just going to use a small piece of brown onion. Get a bit more strength, but that's okay. And we're going to do a chop for 4 seconds. All right, transfer it to a bowl. and set aside. Now this is literally going to be some topping on our souffle. So that's just, oh, smells great. Onion and greens. You could probably just go with shallot if you don't want or don't have an onion. All right, next, clean and dry bowl. Okay, third bowl. Comes in handy, doesn't it? All right, we want to line a varoma tray with a piece of wet, well-wrung baking paper. So here is that. We actually do have in the shop some fitted varoma sheets, which are great for certain things, but when it comes to omelette, you actually want it to overlap. You want that hanging over the side so that you don't spill. All right, we set that aside, and we're going to pop in our butterfly whisk, and we're going to whip up our whites. Now this is going to make our omelette fluffy. And I just have to hunt down. It's all right, I'll just use my trusty 31 butterfly. And our eggs. So here we go. The key to this is using room temperature eggs. Some people find that their souffle just doesn't do as well when they use them, bring them out of the freezer, out of the fridge I should say, because it's got to work extra hard to try and emulsify when it's cold. Those ingredients are best at room temperature. So I get my weekly egg supply and love using the fresh eggs. These are two of the things that I love to use it on, and that's mayonnaise. Always like to keep a batch of mayonnaise handy because that can be used instead of butter at times when you've got a shortage. And of course some of our dips and dressings might call for a couple of scoops of mayo. All right, I've just lost an egg yolk in there. Would have been handy to have done this first, wouldn't it? And have your egg separator. That's okay. This is Reality Gram. And of course I only decided at the last minute that I was going to video this, as I do, because I thought this is a great one people haven't seen. Okay, now I've got egg yolk in there. That's probably not going to do quite the trick that we want, but that's okay. Let me show you what happens if you get egg white into your egg yolk into your egg white mix. It's not about being perfect, is it? Okay, we want 6 eggs. All right, there it goes with a bit of yolk. All right, it says lime juice. Now, if you don't happen to keep a lime, which is often not the case for me, then you might want to just requires a little bit of acid. You could use a lemon. Lemons aren't that cheap at the moment, so I'm just going to use a couple of teaspoons of the trusty apple cider vinegar. A little salt, okay. Some ground pepper. All right, pop on the lid with our measuring cup. And we're just going to whip those up for 1.5 minutes. So let's just give that a... While that is going, I can't talk anyway, it's in the background. I will just rinse my next bowl, show you what we're going to move on to next. what I'll do is I'm going to give my other bowl that has had the mayonnaise a clean, which is nice to stick that on. Full of water, half filled with water, and we're just going to give it a speed 10, a zip up. That'll just fling everything out from underneath the blade and give that, make that quick and easy for me to rinse and dry up again. Mayonnaise might just mean getting your you're getting a bit of detergent. Sometimes that helps because you want to clean that up, particularly if I was going to now make a pavlova or something from it. You want to make sure that that bowl's scrupulously clean. But I'm going to show you something else in a minute while we're doing our other things. The start of the blend. Oh, you can't see without me putting that in. So I've usually whipped that up and it's quite that much higher. Maybe just with that egg yolk in there, it's held it back, but I might just see if we can give it another, just to take it up to speed 4. You can go beyond what it tells you, but of course you don't want to go beyond speed 4, as that's the limit for the butterfly. Yeah, no, I've gone and ruined it with that yolk in there, but that's okay because I'm still going to show you how this will turn out. What it normally would do is a beautiful big fluff up, and then it asks us to pop in the egg yolks and fold those into it. So we move on to that, 6 egg yolks. Look, there's been times when I've just blended them up together and haven't even taken the time to make the souffle. That works too, it's just like an omelette. It's just, of course, as the name suggests, we're wanting to get it to do a nice rise. So here's your egg yolks going in. Okay, we're just going to mix that through. So that's just given a mix to that. It's going to scrape down the sides because often it hasn't taken down that extra white stuff. And now we want to pour that onto our aroma. Probably could have done another 3 or 4 seconds to mix in. Incorporate that yolk. That's all right, that's how you get to learn how to amend a recipe. All right, now what it actually has here, which is good, we've got now little illustrations as you're moving through a recipe and you might not understand what it's telling you to do. So we can actually play that just to show, okay, your wet baking paper, pour in your egg. And we're going to place the lid, which is now coming to you as polypropylene, so you're not going to actually see through that. It's okay. All right, rinse mixing bowl. So we're just going to pop in some water. Okay, so 500 grams is needed for the time that we're going to be steaming. My jug is being weighed there, so that's at least, of course you've got half the bowl is 1 litre, so just want to make it around about that. All right, so on goes the varoma, placed on top. And we're going to start that. That's going to start steaming for 6 minutes. After the 6 minutes, it's going to just ask us to top it, then cook it for another. We can show you the actual recipe detail while it's cooking, give you a bit of an idea of what's coming up. Okay, so we're going to cook for 6. We're going to add the salmon and the reserved green mix on top, and then we're going to pop the lid on and cook for another 6. So all up, we're looking at 12 minutes of cooking this souffle. You know, give a few minutes of preparation time that I could have put into it and had the eggs separated. So while that's cooking, we've got 6 minutes. I'm just going to show you a couple of other things that I do. On the side, just a few little prep steps to go with my souffle. I'm going to have a bit of coleslaw. That was one thing that I thought of I could do with here. So seeing I've got the mayonnaise, it's always a great time to make up a fresh batch of coleslaw, because it usually involves using a few tablespoons of your mayo. So for most people, I know you can make this fancy, but I find just carrot, cabbage, some green apple, a little bit of parsley. Pop that through. I'm just going to add everything to the bowl. If I didn't have mayonnaise, I would use lemon juice and just flavour it up with a bit of oil and lemon juice that way. But because I do, that's great. So 1 green apple. So you've got your recipe under coleslaw, but because I know what it is, it's generally, I'm going to use some shallots as well. Some shallots. And look, I had a bag of shredded cabbage from a stir fry the other night, so it's already been shredded up. You just make it a little bit finer. So a good couple of handfuls of that. So you know, it's up to you how you like your coleslaw. I do it quite finely, it's just nice and palatable that way. So I'm going to chop for about 6 seconds on 5 or 6. Alright, take a peek, see if it's where you want it. Wow, look at that. How cool is that? Alright, so I could add my mayonnaise to this right now if I wanted to put it through, but I'm not going to eat all this at once. So I find the key to long-lasting coleslaw is just use what you want to use, measure it out. I might use half of that, and the other half I'll put back in the fridge dry, so it just doesn't perish quite so quick. It means it will just last that little bit longer. So there's just a nice big bowl of goodness right there. As I said, you can tweak this. Some people put nuts, seeds, even some pineapple instead of using an apple. It's a nice little tweak. So I'm going to set that aside later. And then one other thing I wanted to show was just something that I do occasionally is using mushrooms and walnuts. I can make some little meatless balls. So these can either be like a rissole, like a meatball, or sometimes I even flatten them out like a patty. So I'll make these up and I can do them any which way. So literally 2 main ingredients. That's mushrooms and some walnuts. So I'm going to probably use about 2 cups of mushrooms to a cup of walnuts. Now, to add a bit of flavour to this, you know, it's really up to you. I'm going to start with a couple of cloves of garlic. It's always yum. You can use garlic salt, and you can also use onion salt if you prefer. So I'll just chop up my garlic first. So have you ever made any nut balls? You know, this is something that a lot of vegans choose to use instead of their meat. That's a you know, a nut-based kind of fritter. And I'll tell you what else I do with it in a minute. Right, that's my 3-second chop of my garlic. All right, now I could use some onion. Actually, I will. I've got some here, so I'm going to use an onion. There goes an onion. Again, shallots would work. I love the flavour that onion gives you, so a bit of a chop there. Just a quick chop, because it's going to get chopped up further now as we add the other ingredients to it. We just don't want it to be too chunky. Alright, let's switch over here. We're going to top the omelette with, of course, some, oh, there it is, it's looking good. Going to top it with some greens, so just popping these in on top. It says, let me tell you, top with hot smoked salmon and some kale mixture. So popping that in there. This is all going to go yummy into the centre. So it's just started to cook, and it's basically just going to give it some kind of holding it up so these ingredients can mostly sit above the omelette, but some will flop down and into it, which is all good. All right, now depending on what you want, some salmon, just store-bought flake, but I often just buy this trout from Aldi and give it a quick pan fry. So that's literally been about 5 minutes in the pan, and that's just going to go sitting on top. And there's 2 of us eating this, so this omelette will serve probably 4 servings, which means I'll have lunch today and lunch tomorrow. I think this Aldi trout is around about, it's $14 for 4 pieces. So it's one of my favourite. It just means that you can move away from, you know, farmed salmon, which whenever it tells you that it's actually responsibly sourced, it's not always the fact. So I like the fact this is coming from a more sustainable source. It looks good. Pretty on top there. All right, so the fly wants that. Pop the lid in on top. All right, and we're going to continue now for the next 6 minutes. All right, so while that continues to steam, I'm just going to make sure that you've got the little piece of paper moved across. Baking paper just from the vents either side, that just gets the steam in there. And look, sometimes I just knock it up too, just to ensure that that steam, I'll often take it 2.5 just to give that lift for the steam into the varoma. Okay, we've got this fly being annoying, so I'm just going to pop that there. All right, so back to our our little meatballs that are not containing meat. All right, as you can see, we've done our onion and our garlic. So just want to scrape that down. That's chopped up. And now I'm going to use 2 cups of mushrooms. So I'm just chopping my mushrooms in half. And you could put in a bit of a weight to get an idea, but I do everything these days because I've done things like this quite a few times. I do a bit of a guesstimate, which I know what looks like 2 cups. All right, we'll leave those. I usually get 2 meals out of my mushrooms. All right, and then a cup. I put the scales on to show you how many this will work out at. The nuts, usually around about 150. That's good. We're just shy of a walnut or 2. All right, then what I like to do is at this point just add a bit of seasoning. So you want to add your salt. You want to add some pepper. Now, this is such a great template. You can put now whatever kind of flavour. If you want to make these meatballs and you want to do them in a bit of a spicy way, I sometimes add some, I'll put some, what's the word? Curry pastes. Yep, some curry pastes. I'll sometimes add my coconut aminos, which I'm out of at the moment. I might put a little bit of balsamic vinegar. It just gives it a bit of sweetness with a bit of a slant, a bit of a kick. If you're wanting to do some spice, you could certainly put in some chilies and add that little bit of a spicy kick. And I like to add usually a herb, which will give a bit of a turn up as well. Flavour. Usually oregano is my favourite. So if I just want to do it like a traditional meatball, you know, you've got either basil or your oregano, some tomato paste, that's nice. But if you wanted to put a bit more of a slant on it, you could have some coriander going in with a little bit of squid paste, you know, just to make it more of a Vietnamese kind of flavour. So I'll leave that to you. You've basically got your mushrooms, your onion, your garlic, and your walnuts. Walnuts are best for this recipe, I find. I have used other things, but I prefer the walnut flavour. And look, I'm going to give it a bit of a kick. I'm thinking of putting a bit of this sambal Omelette in it. And that's just a half a teaspoon for a bit of a twist. As I said, you could use your tomato sauce. And we're just going to chop all this up. And what I will do is add, for my benefit, I like to add an egg to bind because I love eggs. And it's all about eggs today. Eggs in the mayo, eggs in the souffle. And let's just add an egg to bind that like you would with a normal meat ball kind of thing. You can leave that out. Just need to add something that's going to bind a little bit, and we'll chop that. Doesn't take long. It's, you know, the walnuts for me were all chopped down, so I had already made those, had activated those. I soaked them, and they were in my, they've been in my dehydrator. So let's take a look at this texture. This is what you pretty much want to get. It's just a nice squishy kind of. Alright, you can see that now. It's going to look a little bit like a meatball. Right, so I can stick these in a little container in the freezer, and I could eat some today. I could also flatten them right out and do more like a patty and put them on one of my gluten-free bread rolls, which is nice. That works out well. Great to have just when you want to pull something quick and simple. I can throw it in the oven like this and just bake a whole heap up and have them ready to go. And sometimes I just do a little bit of flavour test. Yep, got the onion. Gives it that kick with the sambolic in it there as well. So I could go through and make those up later when you're not here. And the other thing I want to tell you about that is a great kind of a oops, I've just skipped my steps, so I'll go back to that. That's a great kind of mix to make a bolognaise. So there you've got mushrooms and walnuts that can become either your meatballs, meatloaf, meat fritters, meat-free fritters, or we could now saute onion and put this aside and that can become my meat for a bolognaise. So who would think? It's really quite a trick because it tastes great. You put that together with your cumin and you know, you turn that more into an Indian flavoured type of, yeah, like you can do a shepherd's pie mix. You can do your lasagna using that rather than using your meat. And look, this is a great way to smuggle some more veggies, more mushrooms into the family's diet without it being obviously a mushroom. So I just skip, let me show you that last step, because sometimes depending on how hot the water was, sometimes I just put it in the cold water and it might just need another moment. So let's have a look. Eggs, first cook. I could go to the recipe about the whole, but I'm just going to show you the final. Okay, so it says to transfer onto a plate and divide it. So that's looking pretty good. I'm going to, though, that looks good. I'm going to show you. I might just give it another 2 minutes. Show you the finished product and my mess here. Ta-da! Here you go. How good does that look? So that's my souffle. I will just check, I'll peel away the paper around the sides and just make sure that it is cooked through. Look, there's always that variant. It should be pretty spot on, but as I say, depending whether your eggs have come out of the fridge, whether you know, you've used freezing cold water in the bowl or hot water to start, that might just give you the difference of a couple of minutes. So I hope you've enjoyed my souffle, salmon souffle, my yummy nut mix over here that's going to be become something else. I'll send you some photos of what I do with that. I've got my mayonnaise and my coleslaw set aside and I'm ready to eat. So I hope you have a great day, hope you're inspired. A couple of these items that I have purchased from our mix shop can be ordered here. I'm just going to put the cart and the link underneath so that you can just click on. The cart will always have a Thermomix in it, so you can just take that out and repopulate it with a few of your goodies. We've got things like bowl lid covers, the silicone bowl lid cover for the Thermomix bowl, and then there's also one that you can purchase that goes over your thermo server as well and goes into the fridge. They're great, they're about $14.95. They're a new item that I'm loving, as with my little jug that I showed you. So have a great week, everyone, and until next time, keep healthy and keep on Thermomixing. See you guys.